guys, it's Saf coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be looking at the new changes that are coming to Raid Shadow Legends. We have got some big things coming, and I think it's going to be coming next week, if not the week after. If we look back at Hydra, that came out on December the 8th last year. So it looks like this is almost like going to be honest before we even have a chance to blink. I'm not going to watch the whole video. I'm going to look at different snippets and give you my opinion and my thoughts about this change. We're also going to be looking at some of the quality of life changes that are coming as well in Raid over the next couple of days. And we're going to look ahead to sort of what we want from the Christmas fusion as a result of this changes. So we've got this big new release, Artifact Ascension. Effectively, we are going to have a system where we can ascend artifacts and gain bonus primary stats. So it doesn't affect the substats, it's going to affect the primary stats. And we can see in this sort of visuals here, we're going to get this like purple color as you ascended each one. And we have a new dungeon, and we're going to have another currency where you can essentially farm the currencies here, and you're going to be able to use those oil to ascend the currencies here. You can see ascend to level 6 is going to be 140, 150. So basically one of those is going to be 50, 100, and 140. If we kind of have a look at the range here, it's going to be Force Affinity down the bottom. You're going to get 3 to 5. So if you high roll it, you're going to need at least 10 runs just to get the higher tier here. It's good that you've got like an instant option. That can be quite cool. And obviously it's going to scale based on each different level here. You need to be at least level 12 to be able to ascend, and then you're going to get different bonuses depending on the slot, like we get different primary stats depending on the slot as well. They have put together this chart, which is quite useful. We'll make sure this gets put up on the website as well as a screenshot, so we can see we can get any of the existing primary stats. And I have noted in the video here, in some of their examples, I think you can get the same primary stat as the primary stats. You can get double speed, or you can get double crit damage, or you can get double crit rate. There is no limitations in terms of uniqueness here. So that's going to be quite cool. I do worry about stat bloat a little bit. Let's just have a look at this chart again. So if we think typically a damage dealer, we want crit damage primary stat gloves, and it's giving us around about 20 to 30% of the existing primary stat as bonus primary stat. So we're going to get something like 100 to 110%, maybe potentially even 120% crit damage on gloves. You know, we could get an extra 20% attack. We can get an extra 12 speed. Although speed is less valuable, attack percentage is more interesting. If we think over the entirety of this bloat here, if we're thinking of an attack-based damage dealer, we could probably get, we don't know the exact ranges yet, somewhere between 20 to 30 extra % crit damage. And then we're going to be able to potentially get 20, 40% more attack. If we're getting about 1/3 of 265, so around about 120, give or take, about 100 extra attacks. So we're going to get 300 attack more here from having bonus on all 3 of these roll. Another 40% attack percentage here, and another 20 to 30% more crit damage. That is another layer of empowerment on a champion's ability to build stats. So that'll be interesting to see. What are my overall thoughts? I would not have liked... So first things first, I dislike that we have got 2 dungeons here. I dislike the fact we're going to have one dungeon and then another dungeon, because what that tells me is we're going to have 2 different currencies for accessories and artifacts. We already have way too many currencies, by the way. We don't need to have another one. But this basically tells me here, we're going to have this, and then probably within the first quarter, accessory scaling. Ideally, I would have preferred oil to be universal, and then this to do something different, but it is what it is. I like the fact we've got a new dungeon to farm. Gives us more variety, gives us more interest, and we're going to have a look at the boss in a second. It gives us a reason to keep grinding gear, I suppose. It's got to the point where I don't do ×2 speed because my gear is just good enough. Now I'm always going to be hunting for that little bit of bonus stats if the primary stat doesn't roll the way I want it to roll. We will need quite quickly, in my opinion, the ability to re-roll this individual bonus primary, because when we look at how many different options you could get for the chest, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different options. That's a lot of RNG to go into. So I would really love like a chaos ore style thing for the substat. They have said that it isn't in yet, but they pretty much said they're probably going to think about it. And I imagine they will, because they can sell the item as a valuable resource. Overall, Artifact Ascension looks like it's going to, again, redefine how we build champions. But overall, I think it's a interesting change, although I really would love to see the actual numbers in terms of how much can we get on each piece. So let's talk about the Sand Devil's Necropolis, as it's called. This new guy looks pretty badass, some sort of like martial-led, giga-charged monster. We're going to be fighting him in a new dungeon. You will need energy. There will be no cap for this dungeon, so you can farm it like potion keeps in like other dungeons. So that's something to take note. If you want to get a lot of oil, then you can burn as much energy as you want into this individual dungeon, and you won't get limited. I like the fact that we have got more than just a nuke the boss down strategy here. We have got some different mechanics that we have to do. We're bringing sleep in here. Now, sleep as a debuff is a bad choice in my opinion, because there's just not a lot of sleep champions in the game. It really kind of screams, if you've got Siphi, this is going to be like 10 times easier, which is kind of annoying that it's going to be another Void Legendary. But I guess that's what always happens when we get new content drops and content releases. Yeah, one champion is just insanely strong for it. So we're going to have sleep as a requirement, and you're going to have to permanently sleep him. So let's have a look at some of the passives here. Al-Naima is immune to receiving all debuffs except sleep. Also immune to HP exchanging effects, HP balancing effects, cooldown increasing effects, turn meter reduction effects. So basically, if he's not asleep, you can't do anything to him, right? You cannot do anything. You can't slow him down. So you need to have sleep debuff. When he's under sleep, he's only immune to stun, freeze, provoke, block active, true fear, fear, and petrification. So he's immune to crowd control effects whilst he's asleep, but he's already slept anyways, it's not a problem. So that means you can probably do things like poisons, burns, heal reduction, which is important for one of his abilities, is not blocked here. Obviously, he's immune to a HP exchange and balancing effects, because what you don't want to have is like a Nogdar that puts him on 0% HP. That would be cheating. And cooldown increase in effects. You can't affect his skills in any way, but you can put poisons, burns, decreased attack, decreased defense. You could probably put decreased speed on him. He's not saying he's anything like that. You can drop his turn meter, although that has a penalty. So he also decreases incoming damage from enemy skills by 25%, 50%, 75%. So I'm going to look at it as like top, like the top tier here. I know obviously as you progress it'll be different, but I'm going to look at the hardest difficulty. He's going to decrease incoming damage by 75%, but then he's going to reduce that by 10% for each debuff that he's under. So you're going to want champions that can basically get sleep out regularly and then put lots and lots of debuffs out there. Toxic sets might come into great value here. Single hit toxic sets where you can just keep getting toxic debuffs out. Poisoner who can place lots of poisons in one ability, probably a good idea, like a tourist style thing. Knocked, the paralyzer seems like a good shout all of a sudden. Sleep plus poisons, right? We want to get as many debuffs. If we don't have debuffs out there, we can't really do much damage to him. Then we have another passive, Dreamless Sleep. Activates the slumber counter whenever a sleep debuff is placed on Al-Naima. The slumber counter disappears whenever a sleep debuff expires on Al-Naima or is removed from him. Sleep debuffs are not removed from Al-Naima when he is attacked. So, unlike normally where sleep is bad because any hint of an attack, any hint of damage, a burn, a poison, anything wakes people up from sleep, he's not going to wake up from sleep. Decreases his slumber counter by 1 whenever he is hit. When the slumber counter reaches 0, he removes sleep and he fills his turn meter by 50%. Whenever a sleep debuff expires or is removed, he becomes immune to sleep for 1 turn. So you have a 1 turn cooldown on this ability. And at stage 5, we've only got 5 attacks. So that basically means multi-hitters are a bad idea here. Ruella, out the window. No thanks. We want champions that can do lots of debuffs on 1 hits. We don't want multi-hitters here. Otherwise, we're going to be basically never keeping him under sleep, and that's going to be a problem. We need to keep him under sleep. Then we have this third passive. So we've got a lot of passives on this guy. Soul Sustenance. Whenever Al-Naima attacks, destroys your max HP by 10%. Miracle Heal, all of a sudden, is at least got a second place to be relevant. Whenever an enemy decreases turn meter, destroys the max HP by that same amount. So basically, you don't want decreased turn meter because any big, like Alessandra would be a nightmare here. Cold Heart would be a nightmare. Any champions that are going to do a lot of turn meter reduction is going to be a problem. Whenever Al-Naima is under a sleep debuff and an enemy champion is healed, restores a portion of that champion's destroyed max HP. The amount restored is equal to the value of the heal. So you don't need Miracle Heal. It will help. It will speed it up. Any sort of healing will work. So this is going to be great for, again, Siphi. She heals on that A1 when he's below 50% turn meter. Pardon might make a comeback. Probably Rector Drath is a great shout here. Decrease attack on a single target, single attacker. Healers are going to be essential to try and get rid of that. Big chunky heals as well. Demithas A2, big chunky heals. Probably champions that do a lot of utility without attacking are very useful as well. Elva, Duchess, where the A2s and the healing abilities, the revive abilities, and all these things don't attack an enemy. That means you're not proccing the sleep counter, but you're getting effects off. Then we get Dune Tempest. Removes all debuffs from Alnheim, then heals him. The amount healed is proportional to the total amount of destroyed max HP on the enemy team. So if you've got no enemy destroyed HP, then you don't need to worry about heal reduction. However, someone like a low accuracy Morrigan will be very valuable here because she is the only champion that I know can place a heal reduction that cannot be removed. So as long as you stop the turn meter stealing on the A3, or even disable that A3 completely, a Morrigan all of a sudden looks very good for this encounter. After healing attacks all enemies, the damage this skill inflicts decreases for each removed debuff. So again, as much as we want debuffs to make it so that we can deal damage, we need debuffs here so that he can't deal damage. So lots of big debuffers are going to be really important as well. And then we have the big new Feasting Swarm. Attacks all enemies, ignores shield, block damage, and unkillable. So we're not going to have any unkillable speed tunes. We're not going to have any block damage speed tunes here, as well as 100% of the target's defense. After attacking, places a sleep debuff on himself for 2 turns. Passive effect increases the current cooldown of this skill by 1 turn whenever a sleep debuff is placed on him by enemies. Okay, increases the current cooldown of the skill by 1 turn. So when you enter the battle, I guess it's off cooldown. So as long as you pull it asleep and then he comes off, he's going to have 1 turn. I don't think you can avoid this ability. You're going to get smacked by this at least once because when you enter a battle here, you're on round 1 if we look at this. You need to place a sleep debuff. That will put it on 1 turn cooldown, right? That's what this is saying here. Increases the current cooldown of the skill by 1 turn whenever a sleep is placed by the enemy. But if you place a sleep on his passive, whenever a sleep debuff expires or is removed from Alnheim, he becomes immune to sleep debuffs for 1 turn. You can't decrease his turn meter. The slumber counter is going to remove the sleep debuff, and you're going to do that eventually, right? You're going to hit the 5 hits pretty quickly. So I can't see of a system where you can actually avoid this damage directly. The way I look at it is you're going to go in, you're going to sleep him straight away. That'll put it on 1 turn cooldown. He's then going to come back and he's going to put himself, he's going to hit this. So the only way you can do this, you just have to tank the damage, I think. But it looks pretty nasty, you know, when we see this hit here. So you're going to need a revive on death. So I think the way this is going to work is you're going to need 1 champion with a revive on death. You're going to need 1 champion that has got sleep. You're going to need a champion that can do lots of debuffs. You're going to need a champion that can heal. And then you're going to need champions that don't hit multiple times. It's very, very narrow list of champions that we're going to want here. You're going to need revive on death because I think you're always going to take 1 hit here. Once you take 1 hit, you probably can do this entire encounter without taking another hit because this is going to go on a 4-turn cooldown and you're going to be able to stagger that to an 8-turn cooldown because you're going to always be able to increase it every time you place a sleep debuff. And he's going to put that on a cooldown. So I think you should be able to avoid it a second time. We probably will be able to speed tune this a little bit, knowing that we won't be able to bring decreased turn meter. Hopefully, we will try and avoid decreased turn meter. You'll be able to probably build different things. So we probably will be able to do a speed tune and revive on death. We'll likely see that come out. So far, I like this boss. I think he's very unique. I think there's lots of different things you can do on it. Yeah, really, really excited. Looking forward to this. So a couple of other things to talk about here. They've just announced that there's going to be auto climbing of Doom Tower, which is something that RSL Help has been able to do for a while, right? You can run effective resources, that's not a problem. But it's nice now that I'll be able to do that without needing RSL Helper, where I can just press a button here that'll say auto climb, and it will basically automatically run my team up to the next boss difficulty. Obviously, if we fail, you might have to manual different stages, that's fine. But for the majority of sort of late to endgame players, we have a team that can basically do it all. If it's a Kaimar reset, this is my team. It can do all of Doom Tower hard. So it will be nice that we can actually climb this up pretty comfortably and then stop at the individual bosses. I am not sure about the secret room change that they've announced, like giving us forged materials. I thought we were going to get something like soul stones or something. I'll be honest, if all we're going to get is a bit of magisteel, I'm not going to bother with secret rooms beyond getting the champions. And it's going to take me so long to get the legendary, it's worthless. And I think, to be honest, most endgame players are going to do that unless the value of that forged material is really good. If it's going to be like charms, maybe, that could be cool. If it's going to be specific sets, maybe, that would be cool. If it's going to give me something that I would normally get in the Forge Pass, that would be quite cool. But I think it's just going to give us Magisteel. And if that's the case, what a disappointing change to basically a system that was actually quite challenging. And there was a reason to do it. And I can understand why they're not doing more champions, because it takes so long. I'm currently on a path towards getting Krakoth. I will need, I think, one more rotation after this one to get Krakoth, which is the last epic champion. But as you can see, I'm only on my way to Vassal. I'm only getting close to the 6th legendary. So I'm way back on the legendaries. So there you go, guys. That is kind of like the big news drop of this update. I am really looking forward to sort of trying out the new boss, theory crafting new teams. I'll do a video on the top 5-10 sleep champions you should consider. There are some surprisingly good, interesting rares. The only downside is I think the top boss is Force Affinity, and many of the sleep champions are Magic Affinity. So I'll be honest, for the upcoming Christmas Fusion, I'm hoping they include a sleep champion mechanic like they did with Tutora last year with Veil. We didn't have many Veil champions for Hydra. Tutora was a big solution to that. So I would be pretty confident and pretty hopeful that the actual Fusion champion is going to have something to do with sleep. I'm glad I picked up Morrigan now, because I think actually of all the different things, I think this passive could be really strong to try and stop him healing. Keep in mind, you don't want to go too long in the fight because you don't want to get back around to that nuke again. Although if you've got Revive on Death, you can probably speed turn it, so it's not a problem. So it'll be interesting to see. So I'm looking forward to a new challenge. As a sort of a late to end game player, new challenges are always something we want to have. And yeah, let's see how it goes. I think it's going to go live next week. I think it's going to be really quick, a quick turnaround. It's the end of the year. They always do one big content drop. Let me know in the comments below, guys, what you think of Artifact Ascension. Are you all on board? I've seen some comments on Hellhades' YouTube video, and I think a lot of the people are saying, you know, it's all good, but can we have some more energy? I kind of agree with that. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos from our channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification. That does help me continue to grow this channel and to continue to push out videos for you on a regular basis. But I will catch you guys in the next video.